Okay, I just have to talk about Alolan Pokemon because we just got the Alolan Grimer reveal and it tells us absolutely nothing about Alolan Pokemon, and it's almost suspicious at this point because why waste the pretty much last significant Korokoro leak that we have on Alolan Grimer? Like, it doesn't really fit with the Type Null reveal. We also get Jangmo-O's evolutions, but when you think about it, we already knew Jangmo-O and Type Null were Pokemon. Them getting evolutions, well, Type Null's like really surprising it ends up with an evolution because it's a synthetic Pokemon, but we knew Jangmo-O was going to get some evolutions and probably be the pseudo-legendary anyways, but then like Alolan Grimer's just chilling here. And while Korokoro is probably going to leak or at least reveal information in November, the game comes out in 5-6 days after that, because we have the leak around the 10th or the 11th, and then it publishes on the 15th, game comes out the 18th, we're done. So there's not going to be any big information, and also when we're looking at official Pokemon news, we probably have 2 more official Pokemon reveals. We have the 14th, so tomorrow as of the time of making this video, and maybe the beginning of November. Demo comes out between then, and then the game comes out, and then really there's no point to leak or reveal anything because we know everything about the game at that point. So Alolan Pokemon start off really strong, and it's starting to dip off. I feel like it's all a ruse. I feel like there has to be more than Kanto, and that's the big question that I want you guys to answer in the comment section down below. I want to get a discussion going. Do you think Alolan Pokemon are going to be Kanto only? Or do you think it's going to go into some other generations as well? Now, we're going to be doing a big discussion for the rest of the video. So like this video if you think that these discussions are awesome, just going deep into Pokemon Sun and Moon for like 15-20 minutes. Because I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but I didn't want to embarrass myself. Because I was on the Kanto only camp, but now it's almost getting suspicious. I didn't want to be like, oh, yeah, it's going to be Kanto only, and then in the next Korokoro, there was going to be like a Johto Pokemon reveal. But right now, we just got Korokoro. It would be a little safer to wait until the 14th, but I really want to talk about this right now while I have all these pages up, and I'm really excited. And I don't think that the next big official Pokemon news drop is going to give us anything more than this. It's pretty much just going to be a video form on the Pokemon channel, and the Pokemon website updating what Korokoro just leaked is my guess on it. But overall, like, we're seeing this. We started so strong. We had a lot of Alolan forms. We got a couple more Alolan forms as well. That's why I have this page up. And then we have Grimer. And that's kind of it. So maybe Grimer gets an evolution. Yeah, that seems about right. And then Meowth gets an evolution. How many more Alolan Pokemon are we going to get? Because I have this page of Mega Pokemon. We got quite a few Mega Pokemon, and they became viable. And that's the big thing. I think the biggest point as to why I'm feeling that there has to be more than just Kanto Alolan, or yeah, just more than Kanto Alolan forms is because of viability. Seems like Mega Pokemon were introduced to make all of these old Pokemon that have kind of fallen to the side a bit more viable. That, yo, no one was using Kangaskhan. That thing became hella viable, if not overused to an insane degree. Same with Gyarados. Gyarados is still good, but now it's really good. And a lot of other Pokemon got a nice little boost where you actually see them now. Now, Scizor and Blaziken and some other Pokemon were already being used a lot, but it was a nice boost. But then some Pokemon like Mawile went from never used to, oh my god, this thing is terrifying. If it sets up a Swords Dance, it's just going to huge power you down into nothing. So we got, I think, 30 Mega Pokemon, now not counting, like, starters and legendaries and stuff. We're still at a solid amount. But remember, Pokemon X and Y introduced, like, no new Pokemon, and the Mega mechanic means you only get to bring one. So if you introduce 50 Mega Pokemon in the first game for X and Y, because also we got more in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and you can only pick one, well, most of them aren't going to be used anyways. You're only using 2% at any given time, which is kind of a silly thing to do. Which is why I'm thinking Alolan Pokemon are meant to be the viability. It's like, okay, we made Mega Beedrill viable because now it has a Mega, and now it's actually pretty decent, but you're locked down to that Mega Stone, and then that means you can't use something like Mega Salamence, or Mega Kangaskhan, or Mega Sableye. So why would I give up my slot on a Pokemon that's not as good as the others, even though it's the attempt to make them viable? And now we can see this. This is a revamp. This is going to be bringing these Pokemon back to life competitively, potentially. We have Pokemon like Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Sandslash, and my guess, and I'm thinking that this is pretty much confirmed at this point, is that Sandslash as seen in the past. So what we don't know is if Alolan Pokemon are Kanto only or not, but it's pretty much confirmed. If it's not straight up confirmed, it's pretty much heavily implied that Alolan Pokemon aren't going to have their normal forms in the Alola region, that you're going to have to transfer from Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, which is another kind of point towards Kanto. Because, okay, what if I want to transfer over my Johto Pokemon? Well, you can't do that from the Red, Blue, Yellow Virtual Console, which means that these Pokemon aren't going to be regular forms. Yeah, non-Alolan are not going to be usable on, like, rated battles and stuff, because Red, Blue, Yellow transfers are going to be usable on the battle spot once that becomes available, because they're going to be Alolan native, technically. I think, or they're going to have, like, the plus sign. That's what it sounds like from the Pokemon Global Link website. which is why I have this Japanese page up, because the Japanese page shows all the other Pokemon that we've seen, or at least some of them. That I know there's been more reveals than just these guys, but they're showing Kanto Only Pokemon once again. We've already seen normal Psyduck, so Alolan Psyduck kind of out of the picture. Same for Arcanine, Dragonite, Zubat, and all these other Pokemon. And then we have, you know, Mega Pinsir, Mega Gyarados, Lapras. Doesn't seem like it's going to get too much of a Alolan form. If you actually look at Lapras from the Orange Islands, it's like a native Alolan Pokemon that already exists everywhere if you're kind of going off like the tropicalness of it. And then we have regular Pikachu into Alolan Raichu. But then we just see Alolan Grimer, okay. And then we have Meowth with an evolution, Grimer with an evolution. That's only 11, and that's why I have this list right here, because this is an interesting list. This is a list of all the evolution families in the first generation, and from what we see off of this page, we can already start knocking some of the evolution families out. I think there's 72? I counted, and then I lost the number, but there's only a specific amount of evolution families in the first generation. Okay, we knock out the starters, potentially. That's one thing to deal with, and then we go through this. It's like, okay, what else is going to be able to get an Alolan form? We've already seen some of these Pokemon, even if they're not on the Japanese website. Like, we see Magneton, so that's not an Alolan form right there. I believe we see some other Pokemon. I wasn't keeping track of all of them. Regular Execute goes into Executor, so maybe there's some evolutions. But then we break it down. There's going to be more Pokemon. X and Y only revealed like 60-something new Pokemon. We're getting probably at least 80 like Alola Pokemon, 7th generation Pokemon, and then potentially 40? I'm guessing it's going to be a huge amount of Alolan Pokemon. Well, if it's 40, then that means you're taking like half of the Kanto region, turning into Alolan. That seems like too much, but if you leave it as it is right now, it's too little. So that's where you have to start going into other generations, and that's why I wanted to like scroll down. It's like, alright, we have National Dex, and then we go into Johto. And Johto, I think, struggles just as much competitively as Kanto. That we have all these other Pokemon that aren't being used getting a buff, you know. Raichu did pick up some momentum in VGC, but Alolan Raichu is still pretty cool. No one's using Sandslash. Ninetales got pretty much kicked out once Charizard Y was introduced and Weather kind of fell out of the meta. No one's been using Marowak or any of these Pokemon. Muck is still pretty good, so Alolan Muck is nice, and same with Executor. So these Pokemon are going to be potentially very viable now, and if that is Game Freak's intentions, that means there needs to be that jump into the second generation. At least that's what I'm thinking. And again, there's all kinds of things that are for and against this that we've only seen Kanto Pokemon revealed. And then with the most recent Cerebi League, okay, why is Samson Oak, I think it's Samson, yeah, Samuel Oak is the Professor Oak, and then we have his cousin right here. Why is he wearing the Alolan Executor thing? Why is Alolan Executor here? Why is it a cousin of Professor Oak who came from Kanto? Even though technically in Silver version they were kind of linked up together, and we know that Professor Oak runs around the Johto region. So it's got like, is it viability versus traditional like first generation Pokemon stuff? Because I don't feel like Pokemon 7th generation is going to be as much fan service as people are making it out to be. Like, we had Pokemon Go. That is the first generation fan service right there. And then we are going into the 7th generation, which might have a little bit of everything. You know, X and Y was a lot of first generation fan service. I think that they're going to start tagging into the other generations stuff, because like Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, the 2nd generation is like the top of people's favorites Pokemon games for the most part. So adding on to that for the Sun and Moon, which is this grand project of insanity, I am all for that. So we get to see how that goes. Also, like, Pikachu's like, what is this thing? And it's a happy little Togedemaru that's super spiky, so Pikachu probably wants to keep it away from itself. And then, yeah, then we have the Type Null Evolution reveal, which was kind of surprising. Which is why I'm like, okay, so we get this big Type Null Evolution reveal, we get into Alolan Grimer. I feel like it has to be a distraction. Like, oh, look at this other Kanto Alolan Pokemon, guys! And again, it's like the last leak. We have a month until the game comes out. So maybe we're not even going to see Johto Pokemon. Maybe we're not even going to see any of these other things until the game comes out. Then you stumble into, like, Alolan Ladian. We already know Ladybuzz in there. And we already know some Pokemon, like Execute, Cubone, evolve into an Alolan form. Like, there's regular Cubone, regular Execute running around. So maybe regular Ladybug into Alolan Ladian. Ladian is, like, one of the most pitiful competitive Pokemon, absolutely useless. And you look at some of these other Pokemon. Lantern. Alolan Lantern, definitely an option. Alolan Ariados, like some of these Pokemon feel like they'd fit in. Alolan Sunflora. We already got Yanmega, so the 4th generation did help out some of these 2nd generation Pokemon. But this can fill the gaps. Please, give me Alolan Dunsparce. Give me Mega Dunsparce. Give me something in my life. Alolan Shuckle makes a lot of sense, because it gets a lot of tropical representation. Delibird, I've kind of talked about that. That would be cool. And there's all kinds of other speculations, like Mantine. That Pokemon is at home in the ocean, at sea, in these tropical kind of areas. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. There's a lot of good contenders, and then maybe, you know, you pick off a few from like 3rd, 4th generation. And then we go into the Riddler, the Chinese Super leak, bro. Yeah, that's the right thing right here. So here's the thing about the Riddler. I've already been, like, super kind of on the fence about how leaks go until they're kind of pseudo-proven. We already know the one Chinese leak that kind of predicted Lycanroc and then Pyukumuku and some of these other Pokemon. They had it down. They predicted, like, no gems. They predicted Z-Stones. That has pretty much been very trustworthy at this point. But the Riddler has kind of been in the background, just kind of throwing some things out there, and they've kind of come true. That apparently he predicted Mimikyu, that it was Pikachu wearing a sheet over it. Well, that's pretty solid on Mimikyu. That with the Sandygast Palosand, that it was just a pail of sand with like a shovel sticking out of it. Apparently that's a Pokemon now. And then there's the Toucan. So we have the Toucan Pokemon right here, and as I discussed in a video, there's a Toucan on one of the girls' shirts. That's probably, like, a Toucan Pokemon in the Alola region makes a lot of sense as a 7th generation Pokemon. So that kind of backs off of what we've seen in one of the trailers that might have been a teaser, because all the other shirts have Pokemon designs on them, so why just have a random real-life thing? Like, not even, like, a real-world animal and not a Pokemon. And then this is actually pretty cool, like a split personality, like a shared personality Pokemon. That'd be pretty nice. And there's been some other predictions. Like, this is another interesting one. So look at this. This is going in Pokedex order. Keep an eye out for that, because that's why I brought up the National Dex as well. So if we scroll back through the 2nd generation, get to the 1st generation, where's Exeggutor? Exeggutor's right here. Where's Meowth? Meowth is going to be right here. So there's Meowth in Persian. So we have Alolan Meowth, we have Alolan Exeggutor, and then in the middle, we have Grimer and Muk. So it seems like that might be it. Like, this is the next Alolan reveal, the big question mark right here. So that's kind of predicting a Pokemon inside of that. So I'm not saying, like, even though it's still looking good, like, this is pretty solid for, like, prediction-wise. I'm not, like, 100% on board with the Riddler. Maybe because I think it's too cheesy. You know, it's like, oh, it's the Chinese Riddler, guys, and he's being all secretive and cool about his leaks. I think it's kind of, like, cheesy and try hard to give him all these names and assignments. But then we look down here, and the Pokemon that are grayed out are rumored to be Alolan Pokemon in some kind of form. And then we see the starters. Yo, instead of 2nd generation Mega Evolutions, which is what everyone wants, because, alright, 1st and 3rd generation get Megas, and the 2nd generation, even though they got their hidden abilities, they still kind of fell flat. Alolan forms, yo, you want to bring 2nd generation into the Alolan region? Alolan forms would be absolutely incredible. Also, while it wouldn't be fair to Charizard and Blastoise in that evolutionary line, Bulbasaur, if Exeggutor goes all insane when it's in, like, the Alola region, Bulbasaur would be right at home as well, and we technically know that, like, there could be alternate colorations of different Pokemon, like, wasn't there an Ivysaur or Bulbasaur that was in the Orange Islands or something? On Valencia Island? Like, there's the Valencian Island forms that could maybe share something like that. So the Riddler, who has a little bit of credibility and who's been pretty mysterious about this, you know, alright, there's Lantern right there. There's Weavile right there. There's Tyranitar. He doesn't put Muk and Grimer in here, but that's because it's on this list right here. And then there's some other Pokemon that makes sense to get an Alolan form in some kind of way. And also, this shows Pokemon that are going to be in the game. Now, the Riddler has had this out for a while, but we just saw Mega Lucario. We know Mega Salamence is going to be in there. So, the highlighted Pokemon are Pokemon that are inside the game. The grayed out Pokemon are Alolan Pokemon that are inside the game. And we've already seen this. So, like, yeah, Dragonite's right there. We've seen other Pokemon. I think we see Ghastly in this route. We also see Mismagius, so is that Pokemon here? No. Ooh, that might be an interesting thing right there, because we do see Mismagius, but I don't see it right here, because that's a 4th generation Pokemon. We do see some other Pokemon that are, like, kind of throwing around stuff, so I'm wondering if this guy has some information, and he's kind of playing his hand, he's overplaying his hand, like, okay, I can get some leaks, and I'm going to make the big predictions that maybe people are going to, like, lose their mind and think I'm more credible than I really am. Maybe this guy really does have the information. So, if the Riddler kind of works out, it shows into more generations, but that's also on top of the competitive viability, and just how weird it feels that we got so many Alolan Pokemon, then it kind of died down, and then it seems like, okay, how many Alolan Pokemon are we going to get? Are we going to get just 10 or 20, which kind of doesn't justify it, but if we do any more than that, then it takes up half of the Kanto Dex, so it has to go into other generations, right? Or what we see is what we get, and that's pretty cool too. So leave your comment down below, like I said, and I think that's a good way of wrapping up this discussion, because I wanted to do this, like I said, and I didn't want to get embarrassed, but we're at the end of the leagues. We have just demo coming out. What if the demo just kind of surprised you, like, here's a Alolan Johto Pokemon? That would be pretty cool. But overall, there's a lot going on with Alolan Pokemon, and it's amazing. We still see the Alolan Pokemon every month, new reveal, and we know nothing about them. So there we go, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope y'all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.